Joji, and today is Friday, July 27th, 2018. It's a very cold and horrible day outside. It's super wet and it's been raining for a few days, so everything's very gloomy and it looks bright, but I think it's because my computer tries to compensate the fact that it's very dark. But anyway, I'm super happy today. I have a new pattern release to share with you. I'm gonna talk about that in a bit. It's been 2 weeks since my last journal, and after I recorded last time, my family and I went away on a holiday. We went on a ski trip to the mountains here in Argentina, and it was fabulous. We had the best time, and I came home very happy and very rested, which is great. Even though we stay very active whenever we travel, I try not to work, and that actually helps me come back very motivated to start my work again and to finish things, and it's been great. Yeah, I've been working all week and I've felt very happy with everything that I've made. I can tell I'm a lot more organized than I'm usually, so it's been great. I had fun reading a lot of comments from people who were very confused about the fact that we were skiing. And just in case you don't know where I am, I'm in Buenos Aires in Argentina. That's in the southern hemisphere, so July is winter. It's the hardest part of the winter, and of course it's ski season over here, so we don't ski in December, January or February. We ski in July and August and September. So yes, I want to talk to you about my new pattern out today. Sorry about that. I'm gonna cancel my notifications. There we go. Today I released this shawl pattern. I put it here so that I don't have to stretch and show it to you. I hope you can see it completely. There we go. And it's called Slow Curves, and it's a crescent shaped shawl, as you can see, and it has it's worked with 4 different colorways of yarn. This is colorway number 1. These are colorways 1 and 2 faded together, and this is color 2, 2 and 3 together, 3, 3 and 4 together, and 4. I'm very much in love with this design. It didn't have a name until the day that we took the photos, so you probably saw the photos of this shawl at the beginning of the journal, and we took these photos when we were driving back home after the ski trip. My intention was to take these photos when I arrived to the mountains so that I would have the work done, but that didn't happen. I was basically focusing on skiing and renting everything that we needed to rent for me and the kids and my husband, and we were meeting a lot of friends, and I really didn't want to think of anything work related, so I kept pushing it back. And we were driving home, and I told my husband, you know what, we need to stop on the way and we need to do the photos. The first obstacle or complicated thing was that my face, you can tell today, I'm not sure if it shows a lot, but it was completely burned in this area. Of course, we wear a sunscreen on the mountain, but the sun is very hard and it reflects on the snow, so it comes in every direction, And I think that mostly what burns our skin is the cold and the wind when we are skiing. So we use goggles, and we have kind of like a cowl face mask. But sometimes if you are very active, the ski masks are, if you have them on, it's very hard to breathe when you're very active, like if you're climbing or anyway. Sometimes we pull the mask down so our faces are uncovered, and probably that's why all of our family's faces are a bit burned in this area. So I had to cover that very well with makeup. I don't know if I did a good job or not, but the first thing that I noticed is that makeup was going to be harder than usual. It usually is hard, but it was harder that day. And then, well, I wasn't very picky with the wardrobe for these photos. I was just thinking, okay, I'll wear some jeans and a blouse, and I put that in my suitcase. When we were driving, we were very cozy inside the car, and I was knitting, and you know, I wasn't aware of how cold it was outside the car, and so we were just looking for a nice location, and we were looking out the window, and suddenly we thought, this is the perfect, nicest valley. This is a very good spot, and there was no traffic, and also I could walk to a place where you wouldn't see the road on the photos. And so I asked my husband to pull over there. I got the camera ready and all set up for him. And when I opened the car door, I realized it was freaking freezing. It was -5 degrees Celsius according to the car. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but very cold. And it was super windy, so I think that the wind chill probably got the temperature down to -15. According to what we were seeing on the slopes, like we are quite used to determining the temperature according to how cold we are. It was very, very cold, and I was trying to be gracious, like holding up the shawl and swirling with it, but I just couldn't stand the cold for a long time. It was good that the light was very nice, and the wind actually helped sometimes with the photos, and yeah, we were lucky that everything seemed to be playing in our favor except for the temperature, so we could take those photos in just 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes I put my coat back on, and we did a couple more of me just holding the shawl with my coat on, but yes, I was very cold taking those photos, but I'm happy. I think they turned out very nice, and I think that the light helped me show you the colorways that I use very nicely. I think that the light was very complementary of the yarns that I used. So let me tell you a bit more about the construction of the shawl. It's very, very easy and very fun. It starts with a crescent, and then you work different wedges in one direction and in the other direction. So to one side of the shawl you work all the faded sections, and to the other side of the shawl you work all the solid sections. The level, I would say, it's a curious beginner. The techniques used are garter stitch and yarn overs and decreases, and short rows in garter stitch. Short rows in garter stitch have the advantage that you don't need to pick up the wraps when you're doing short rows, because the wraps are concealed within the purl bumps of the garter stitch, so they are really easy. I usually include a link to a tutorial that I like in my patterns. I prefer not video tutorials, I prefer photo tutorials, because that gives me time to study what's going on. But I know that there are tons of videos that you can look up to see how short rows are done, and if you have never worked short rows, I recommend that you try. It's super fun. The first time I worked short rows, my mind just exploded because I couldn't believe that it was possible to shape the knitting that way, and it just opened up the door to so many possibilities. So I do recommend this pattern for someone who has never worked short rows. I think it's a really good way to get used to them. It's really big. It has over 2 meters of wingspan, so if you like to wrap yourself in big shawls, this is also a really good pattern. I have included a few photos in the Ravelry page where I'm wrapping myself in it, and it comes quite deep, so it's a good... You know how sometimes crescents can be very shallow, and therefore they are nice as a neck accessory, but they are not so good for being warm. This one comes down quite deep. As you can see here, it's quite deep, so it's really good for being warm and as a warm layer. And the best part is that I'm offering a 20% discount until the end of July. You don't need to use any code. It's just my way of thanking you for paying attention whenever I release a pattern, and I think it's really nice. I think it gives people the opportunity to get a pattern at a better price if they really want to knit it. And yes, so thank you so much for those of you who have already purchased the pattern as I'm recording this, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. The yarns that I used are by Vivid Yarn Studio, a dyer in Canada, and by Life in the Long Grass, a dyer in Ireland. So the first and last colors are from Canada, Vivid Yarns, and the second and third colors are from Ireland, Life in the Long Grass. Both dyers are selling kits for this design. They have put together their own combinations because, of course, they don't have the other dyers' colorways. They have both put together really beautiful combinations, but there are many dyers and stores getting 4 skeins together, especially for this design, making sure that they have enough of color 3. Color 3 is the color that requires the most yardage. So take a look on Instagram or Ravelry. There are some really beautiful combinations popping up, and I'm very happy about that. Whew, that was a lot of talking for slow curves. Oh, and the name comes because we were doing slow curves with the car. So we were doing really slow curves, and with every curve we could see the light hitting us in a different manner. So I thought, oh, this would be a really good name for the shawl, and I named the shawl the day that I took the photos. Okay, enough said about slow curves, and I'm going to talk about what I've been knitting and yes, what I've been up to. I didn't knit at all during the whole time that I was away, except for when I was on the car. And if you remember, last time I recorded, we started our sock knit along, which is happening on Ravelry, and with the hashtag #HojiSockCal. And I mentioned that I was going to knit a pair of Indigo Leaves socks, and I'm modifying this design to use fingering weight yarn. So for the Hoji sock knit along, you can use any of my sock designs, and of course any yarns that you like. And this pattern, Indigo Leaves, is written for sport or DK weight yarn, and I made my sample using fingering weight yarn. So I cast on 60 stitches I don't have the sport weight ones to compare because I already gave them away to a friend. But I cast on 60 stitches on 2.25 millimeter needles. These are the ones that I'm using. And yes, so I wrote the modifications on Instagram, and I think some of you were so kind to copy those to our Ravelry group. And today, no later than today, I'm going to write all those modifications onto my project page. I don't know if I'm going to do a pattern update with these modifications because I'm only working out the numbers for my size, which is a women's medium. And I don't know if I really want to write the whole pattern again and have it tested with all those modifications. But these will definitely be available in my project page for anyone who wants to go there for reference. And they turned out super nice. I have to say, I'm especially in love with the yarn that I'm using. This yarn was a gift from a kind viewer in Bath, and she is the maker of the bag that we gave away last month or the month before. So if you remember, I gave away a bag from Bird Street UK, and she makes those bags, and her husband dyes for a small company called Mr.B yarns, and she gave me one skein of his yarn. So I'm in love. I'm super happy with this colorway. It's called Just Rust by Mr.B's yarn, or Mr.B yarn. I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure you can find it. And I think they restocked this color today in their shop. It's gray, and it has some like a greenish tint to it, and it has all these brown and gold and orange speckles, and it has stellina. And I love it. I would absolutely make a sweater out of this colorway. It's really beautiful. And yes, I think the base is similar to every other dyer's stellina base. I don't think there's anything that I would mention about it, but the color is super nice. The yarn is fantastic. I just think it's the same as in every other dyers. Today my English is not so great. I think that 2 weeks is too long not to record a journal. So this is my half object for today. I don't have any finished objects today either, but at least I have a sock. And I just grafted it before, I just grafted the toe before recording, so I am going to cast on my second sock next when I'm done recording. This is in my black Fringe bag, which, by the way, is super dirty because it has been living in my car. I would take my knitting every time to the mountain, even though I knew I was not going to knit, but I put it in the car anyway, just in case. We've stepped on it. My kids eat in the car, so it gets crumbs. I don't know, it's very dirty, and I don't know how to clean this bag because it has these leather handles, and I don't know if I can just wash it. I suppose I could just wash it and just let the leather do its thing. I don't know. I just feel it's very dirty and I wish I could get it clean. Do you wash your Fringe bags? Do you have any advice regarding that? Because I'm not a bag snob, so I usually wear these kind of bags for my knitting. This is a bag that my friend Heli gifted me. with ferry times for an island where she has a summer cabin. And I just put this in the washer and it's fresh and clean for my next project. And my bags get very dirty because I put them in the floor and I mean, this is what keeps my knitting clean. So it's bound to get dirty, right? So how do you clean your project bags? What do you do with them? Some of my other handmade project bags also look very delicate and very fragile for me to just toss them in the washer. So I'm concerned about that. I don't understand very well what I'm supposed to do. I've been working on a new sweater sample for interpretations. I cannot show you that, but it's going really well. I'm very happy. That also kind of relieves me because one of the things that stresses me the most about my job is coming up with a new design. I always say that I don't have a brain that's bursting with ideas that I want to knit, and I just don't have enough time. Many times I struggle to come up with a certain design or with something that's new, that's original, or that complies with certain guidelines that we have to adhere to when designing, right? So perhaps I'm commissioned to design a wrap or a pullover or a cardigan with these or those features, and then I just don't know what to make. And eventually it all happens, right? But having this contract pending, this thing that I have to come up with, it's very stressful for me. So having been able to design this new piece for interpretations and having it turned out so well, it really is like an added holiday for my brain. So that's really good. I have also been working on my leftover socks, trying not to forget them. I usually only have one sock project on the needles, and I really wanted to start a new pair for the hockey sock knit along, and so but I'm always afraid that if I start a second pair of socks I will never finish the first one, so I'm trying to be good and to make some more progress on this. So I'm up to there. Do these match? Yes. Yes. Yes, they match. They match. Or I think the second one has a slightly longer cuff, but they're quite okay. I have listened to you, and you guys, many of you said that you were interested in, that you thought it was a good idea for me to come up with a few patterns for leftovers. So I will write this pattern, even though it's a simple one. I will write this pattern and I will put it together with some other ideas that I have, and perhaps next year this will come out as a small leftover ideas ebook or something of the sort. But in the meantime, I'm happy to share with you my progress. For my leftover socks, I'm using a 2x1 ribbing and several leftovers from other projects and socks. And then I've also been working on my Elton cardigan. So I finished the body of the cardigan, and let me see, what can I use? What do I have here on my desk? A hairpin. This way it will look a bit better. So I finished the body of the cardigan. now you can see it better now that it's not on my straight needles. And so it's, as I told you, it's a bit cropped, and I wanted to make it special, so I worked on a tubular bind off for the bottom ribbing. This took a long time, very, very long time, a lot of hours, I will say. So there's a tubular bind off here in the bottom, and also for the button bands and the buttonhole band, and also tubular bind off here in the neckline. And the yarn that I'm using is by Ivanne S. It's their merino singles base and their mohair silk base, and it's a bit wrinkled as I'm knitting with it. It's not completely smooth and like flat. It has some wrinkles, I will say. I'm pretty confident that this will go away with blocking, but my ribbing is wonky per se, and the fact that the yarn has some texture actually makes it look a bit wonkier than it actually is. But I'm very pleased with how professional the neckline looks, and of course I have to neaten and tidy up all the ends, but I'm super happy. I have picked up the stitches for the sleeves now, and I'm slowly working on the sleeves. I just decided that now that I have finished with a lot of commissions and commitments, I'm just gonna give myself some time to really enjoy the projects that I'm making for my own business, and I'm just going to take time and do them as detailed and the best that I can. Like sometimes I'm in a bit of a hurry, and if that was the case, I probably would have just bound off in pattern for the bands. But since it's for me and I really want to start dedicating some more effort to everything that I'm making, I decided to just not to rush, to save my mind. Yes, that's it. I have a new project plan. I am going to test knit a new pair of socks for my friend Tracy, and the project requires 2 colors for the socks, and I think I'm going to use these 2. So this will be the main color. It's by Ivanne S too. It's their BFL sock, and the colorway is this gray, pinkish tonal with speckles, and it's called Fiori. And I'm going to combine that with white because I'm so good at putting colors together. I didn't want to. I actually tried to pair this up with a few other colors, but I'm trying to use up my leftovers for... I'll never use up my leftovers. That was a lie. My leftover bin is ridiculous. But I'm trying to use leftovers for socks so that I don't create new leftovers by using full skeins for socks, if that makes any sense. And yes, so this probably I'm going to cast on as soon as I finish my leftover socks, so that I don't have 3 pairs of socks on the needles. And now that I turn it around, I realized that I have these yarns here. I brought these yarns, if you remember, from my trip to Uruguay a month ago. And this is one of their new yarns. It's called Feliz, and it means happy, and it's 70% merino superwash, 30% modal, 350 yards, 320 meters. And I had mentioned that I thought this yarn was or would be great for socks. So I have decided that this is going to be the price for our sock knit along. I'm probably going to add a few more goodies that I find here from Argentina, perhaps some tea or something nice, and yes, so these two skeins are going to be the price for one winner of our sock knit along. Of course, you can use them if you win to make 2 pairs of socks, or you can make a shawl or any other project that you like. The colorway is called Wildflowers. And remember that to be eligible for to win a prize, you only have to finish one of the socks of the pair. You don't have to finish the whole pair, but you do have to post a photo in the special FO thread in our Ravelry group Designs by Joji. And the end date, I'm not going to say it here in the journal because once I got it wrong. So I'm going to send you guys to, I think we still have 2 more weeks to go, at least. So you have plenty of time to start one sock and finish one sock and be eligible for the prize that I will send with much love from home. So I think that's it for knitting today. My sewing section is not very long today. I have finished 2 projects. One of them I don't have it here with me, but I'm going to add a photo here now. This is the Roscoe blouse or dress that I mentioned that I wanted to make last time I recorded. I came home from the mountains really looking forward to making this, and I had missed my sewing machine so much. I cut the fabric as soon as I got home, and I started sewing because my friend Ale and I were going to do a sew along, but she had already started hers and finished it, and she was so happy, and I really wanted to share her excitement. So I decided to start it right away. And I cut all the pieces. The fabric is viscose rayon thing, very, very silky and slippery and hard to cut and sew. And as soon as I started putting the pieces together, I had the feeling that the project wasn't for me. I think that the fabric was the main problem. I was not happy with the floral print and the fact that it was a rather small print. And initially I was looking for a black and white print, like a black background with white flowers, white tiny flowers, and I couldn't find it at the local market, and I decided to buy this one, and I thought it was going to be okay, but I don't wear clothes that are just okay. I like to wear clothes that I really, really love. So as I was sewing, I thought, why am I sewing this? I won't wear this. The fabric is not something that you would ever pick for yourself. But I had already cut it, and I don't like to not finish things. In the past, every time I have finished something, I have found the perfect recipient for that, even though perhaps it was intended for me and I couldn't wear it, then I still would find someone who loves it and who values it and cherishes it. So I decided to keep going. Then I put the pieces together and I realized that the fabric wasn't the only problem. The design was not okay for me. I have very narrow shoulders and very wide hips, and this was everything that I tell knitters in my classes that they shouldn't do. So I teach a class called Sweaters That Fit, where I talk about what shapes flatter your body shape and what styles you can wear and what styles are not so great for you. I have a pear shape, and I was making myself a blouse with a big flounce in my biggest problem area. So as soon as I tried it on, I felt I had 30 kilos more, and I felt I was 20 years older. So I was sad, and I didn't know what to do with it, and it kind of kept me from finishing it for a couple of days. And then I had it hanging at home in the hook where I put my works in progress. And that day, my cleaning lady came. So I called my cleaning lady my helper because she doesn't just clean. Her name is Silvia, and she's my housekeeper. And I couldn't do what I do without my housekeeper. I have a home where we have 2 offices running, so my husband and I both work from home. For anyone interested, my husband works for IT, and I do this. And so we have 2 offices running at home, and we have 2 children who go to school and have homework and who spend a lot of time with us because we really like them to be home. And we always eat home-cooked meals, and we always like to eat here. We don't like to go out for dinner so often or for lunch. So our house, I couldn't work if I had to do all the housework. I couldn't do it. So Silvia has been working with us for a very long time. I think that it's the smartest thing to do for me to have a housekeeper who has my house beautiful and lets me focus on my work, and then lets me enjoy my time with my children instead of having to do the bathrooms and do the laundry and everything else. So I appreciate her enormously. We value her so much. We tell her all the time she's the most important person in our lives and in our homes, and I think we all think she's very happy working with us. We hope so. Anyway, Silvia, my helper, she is 5 months pregnant, and I've been thinking of sewing something for her for a very long time. But Silvia is a bigger girl, and I'm always a bit insecure of what to sew for her because we have very different styles, and I wouldn't know what size to make or how to sew for her as a pregnant lady, right? So this was all to tell you that she came on Wednesday, and the blouse was hanging on that hook, and she saw it and she said, "Oh my goodness, Joji, that blouse you make is so beautiful." And I thought, of course. And as I said, she's a bit bigger than I am, and I wasn't sure that it would fit her, but I knew that it had a lot of positivity. So I said, would you try it on? Because I'm not sure that it's my style, and I would love it so much if it would fit you. So she immediately went to the bathroom and tried it on, and it was perfect for her, and she was so happy. She really, really loved the fabric. I have seen her wear stuff like that a lot of times, and I thought, you know what, this is why I was sewing this blouse. I was never sewing it for me. I think that in my mind, when I picked the pattern, when I picked the fabric, I just didn't realize that I wasn't sewing it for me from the beginning. I was sewing it for someone else, and probably my subconscious was giving me the push that I needed to sew something for Silvia without knowing that I was actually doing it. So I finished it that same day, and she even helped me iron the pieces, and I finished it. She tried it on and she was so happy and so grateful, and I think it will only fit her like probably 1 or 2 months more, and then it will be too small for her, but she's already happy thinking she will have something to wear when the baby is born. So yes, so that's the story of my Roscoe dress, and I'm happy I don't have it here to show it to you, because it means that it's in its new home and it's hopefully being worn by a very happy pregnant lady. The other thing that I finished is also not for me. It's a replacement pajama trouser or pants for my eldest boy, Nano. If you remember, he had forgotten his first pair of pajama pants when we went to Uruguay, and he was a bit heartbroken. So when I went to the fabric district last time with Ale, I looked for some more plaid fabric in his favorite color blue, and I whipped these up in, this actually took very little time because I had the pattern all cut out. So I think probably I made this in 2 to 3 hours, and he's very happy to have a replacement pair. There's nothing special about these pajama pants. They just have excuse me, an elastic waist, and they are very easy to make, and they fit. And the thing that I've been working on after that is I worked a little bit, only a little bit on this today. This is my Magnesium Coat. It's a pattern in French, so it's called Manteau Magnesium. And I did the side seams today. They weren't done last week. And I also top stitched twice on the side seams. This is very difficult for me. I have to be very precise. I am using a special top stitching thread that it's a bit thicker. I don't know if, there you go. And also I did the seams for the sleeves. So these are the sleeves. And these these seams were very difficult because I didn't know how to top stitch these seams after they were already seamed. It's, I don't know how to explain, but you basically have to do this with your machine twice for each sleeve. This was very hard for me. It took me a very long time, but I think that they look very nice and very well finished. There you go. This one is not so visible, I think. Why is that? It doesn't show in the camera. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So I have decided I'm going to add placket pockets here. The other option given in the pattern are inseam pockets or like hidden pockets, but I'm going to do placket pockets, and it has only one single row of buttons in the front. So next week perhaps I can show you some more progress on that. This looks like it's going to be a long-term project. It's not going to be a project that I can start and finish within a week, I think. Just the printing out the pattern and cutting out the pieces took me several days. And I still have to print the pattern pieces for the lining. So that's going to take a long time, but that's okay. I'm happy with that. Someone asked me on my last YouTube channel how I pick my sewing patterns, and Actually, it was a bit overwhelming at the beginning when I was starting. So I think I started like 4 months ago to sew, and it was very overwhelming. I had no idea where to look for patterns. My friend Ale always sends me suggestions. My friend Julie was very helpful. She told me a few companies that I could look up, and I opened another Instagram account. It's not the one that you see in the introduction. So my sewing Instagram account is called @hojisews. And what I do is I follow with that Instagram account only people that I follow for their sewing. So I'm very inspired by a few sewists that have a style similar to mine. But I'm finding also that I can be all over the place with what I pick. I mean, one day I'm sewing a flowered roughly blouse, and then another day I'm sewing a structured modern boxy top. So lately what I've been trying to do is I follow a British brand of clothing called Toast, as in toast of bread. And I'm wearing this top today because I was going to talk about them, and this top came from their store. I really love every piece of clothing that they have in their catalog. So I dress myself very much like their style all the time. And so what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to look at their lookbooks to have at least a color reference or a style or a line reference, and then trying to find patterns that resemble some of the garments that they have in their lookbooks, and then try to find fabrics, even if they are just plain fabrics, that go with that. So, for example, this coat that I'm making here in denim is actually inspired by something in their catalog, but I saw the model wearing a very nice workwear jacket in denim, and I thought, oh, okay, I can use this pattern that I bought and this denim that I bought and make something that kind of looks like it, or at least is inspired by that style. And yes, so every time I see someone tag a new sewing pattern company, I try to make sure that I log into my sewing account and I follow them, so then I have more resources when I'm looking for a pattern. So I can look at their catalogs and see if they have something that I want to make. I cannot say yet that I have a sewing style because I've only sewn a few things, I think. But I'm trying to sew for myself, following this idea that I had. So that's what I do. And okay, I think that will be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the journal, and I hope you leave me your comments. I'm always very happy to hear if you like the episode and if you have new ideas for me to talk about in the future. Okay, bye!